Bojan Bogdanovic is that one guy who struggles to guard active wings. And I think we saw that the other night in Miami. How concerned are you, whether it's Jimmy Butler or any of the switches that were happening, how concerned are you with Bogdanovic's defense?
Well, I think that Bogdanovic, he's never been known as like one of the best defenders in the league or anything, but I think there's a difference between being like a mediocre defender and being subpar and putting your team in precarious situations. Now, what I will say is that expectation-wise, I don't think anybody ever expected Bogdanovic to be like an elite defender or anything or really anything close to that. So, am I concerned? Yeah, I'm concerned from the standpoint of you can't expect a guy who's never done something before to start doing it all of a sudden, And I think that when teams play the Jazz, especially right now when the Jazz have played as well as they have, teams are going to look for ways and look for other options on offense when they're playing the Jazz defense, and that happens to be an option. If you've got a dynamic wing scorer like a Jimmy Butler, like any of the nameplates that in the league, well, yeah, you're going to give it to that guy and you're going to let him eat. And I think that Bogdanovic is, I'm not saying that I feel sorry for him because I think this is a dog-eat-dog league, like you either can do it or you can't. And there are a lot of nights where he can't. And I think for him, he understands that he needs to offset that by shooting well. And so when he's not shooting well, then it becomes kind of a problem because then it's like, okay, well, you're not a great defender, so Rudy constantly has to help. And then you're not shooting it well either. So I think there's this dynamic at play, but the good news for Bogdanovic is he does shoot it well a lot of the time. He does give them a lot of options on offense.
But boy, when he struggles...
He does. When he struggles, he really struggles.
He really struggles. And the other thing that I think we saw, especially in Miami, not as much in the Orlando game, which was a cruise control for them, I think.
Yeah.
But when Bogdanovic struggles... this team misses his production. They miss him shooting the three for sure, but I also feel like they miss him getting to the basket. And I think everybody knows, especially after what happened in the bubble, Bojan Bogdanovic is a really important character on this team. He's a really important guy to the success of this club. But what we're seeing more and more, and the thing that really stands out to me is when we talk about defense, and I think we all know the Utah Jazz and all of their championship hopes are built on defense. Because when you shoot this many threes, it's great because you're making 40-something%, and on a good night, the Jazz make half of their threes. Yeah. But when you shoot this many threes, you really have to be a good defensive team to cover the fast break, to cover the transition. And that really puts a lot more pressure on you to defend in the half court. And I think when you have a guy like Bogdanovic struggling, frankly, to compete against wings that are more active than he is, like, I don't know who he matches up with against. Look at the Pelicans tonight. Like, who do you? I mean, you're certainly not.
Probably Ingram.
You're going to put him on Brandon Ingram, and yeah. I think Brandon Ingram is a matchup nightmare for Bogdanovic.
Why do you say that?
Well, BI's long. He's got an incredibly long, quick first step, so he's by you before you even realize it, and that's been Bogdanovic's real handicap.
Yeah, when I guess maybe we're different on that. When I look at Ingram, I think of a guy who does have a elite length, by any standard. But I think that length makes it so that he plays, slower than your average wing would in the NBA. So, like, to me, when I look at Brandon Ingram, I'm like, okay, well, I think Bogey could probably handle that. I think Bogey could probably stay with him. I'm not saying he's going to shut him down, but what I am saying is that I don't think Brandon Ingram's going to go off against Bogdanovic. But at the same time, you never know. Who the real concern should be Zion, because Zion has shown this ability, no matter how big his defender is height-wise, he's shown an ability to move guys. Whether it was Derek Favors last year, we saw this. We've seen him move a number of guys in the league this year. And I'll be really curious to see how the Jazz handle that because the Pelicans get Zion going downhill. That's what they like to do with him. And when Zion's going downhill, it's really tough to stop him. I don't care if you're Rudy Gobert or Giannis or anybody. It's going to be tough to stop that guy. So I'll be curious to see how the Jazz deal with that.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. I think they're very dynamic. I'm guessing Mike Conley is going to play. even though he rested against Orlando. And they didn't need him against Orlando.
They were just saying that was injury management, that they were just...
they rested. Yeah. It was essentially a day of rest for Mike Conley, which, I mean, that's smart. Listen, you have the best record in the NBA. Why are you gonna try and force Conley to play?
You can't win the season right now, but you could definitely lose it right here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it was a smart move. Yeah. It still frustrates me. Mm-hmm. I still maintain that Mike Conley's a guy, because of all the injuries, that I don't know that you can 100% trust.
Right.
When you need to know, is Donovan Mitchell going to be there? The answer is yes. When you need to know, is Mike Conley going to be there? I don't know. I hope so.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating to me, because what am I going to say right now? Your best ability is your availability.
Yep.
And Mike Conley's not always available. But when you look at the matchup against New Orleans, this is no gimme. Are the Jazz better than the Pelicans? Yeah, probably. But I look at the way Lonzo's playing right now, Lonzo Ball, shooting the ball exceptionally well over the last 2 weeks.
Well, people always forget he's an elite defender, so he will be a problem for them.
Yeah, especially, Conley's going to play tonight from everything I've read and what it looks like. He should be good to go. But I think that's a difficult matchup for Mike Conley. I look at B.I., I look at Zion Williamson, I look at Josh Hart, I look at the guard depth that they bring.
J.J.
Redick. Well, and Redick has looked old. Frankly, he is not running well.
He hasn't been quite the same guy.
Yeah, he's not running as well as he did. I think that's why Josh Hart is such an important figure for this team. But again, I just ask, look at the way the Pelicans play. This is not going to be an easy game for the Jazz.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that worries me again is the transition game for the Pelicans. That's where they get a lot of their points, and they've got guys who are not scared of contact. Like I said, obviously Zion, but I look at Lonzo's improved shooting. I look at the fact that Brandon Ingram loves to drive the paint, and I think that Rudy has to be really careful with foul trouble in this game. I think that Zion is the ultimate guy. If you want to get someone in foul trouble, that's what Zion does, because he's just going to take your body, he's going to get the contact, and in this league, they're going to blow the whistle. And that's not an indictment on anybody. That's not an indictment on Rudy. That's not an indictment on any player that goes up against Zion. That's just the fact of the matter, and the defensive player, whoever that is, whether it's Rudy or otherwise, has to make that adjustment. You cannot go body to body with Zion Williamson and think you're going to win. You got to be on the side of him and use your length to block the shot. So I'll be curious to see if Rudy does that, or how they handle this whole team. Because the Pelicans still are a really young team. They don't quite know how to win yet. So I think the Jazz will win the game, but I don't think this is going to be just some cakewalk for them.
No, and I certainly don't think anybody believes it's going to be easy. That's for sure. I don't know. I guess the question here is, when you look at the Jazz, they were bound to lose a game.
Yeah,
that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I look at the Utah Jazz, and I am as sure as I've been, this is the best team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. I don't care who's hurt. I don't care why they are. But the Jazz are the best team in the NBA right now. Mm-hmm. These next two games, I think, will be very telling. And sure, let's say they go 0-2. What's the likely scenario? New Orleans and Philly. They have New Orleans tonight, Philly on Wednesday. I would guess a split there.
Probably.
Right? And to me, that does not change my opinion. If you go to Philly and you get beat by 20, you're still the best team in the NBA. It does not matter to me.
Yeah, I think for the Jazz, the story is going to be written in the second half. I mean, you had a great first half, but nobody cares about that if you blow up in the second half, right?
That's right.
So I think that, yes, I would love to see them win out, headed into the break here, have a nice break, even though it's not really a long break at all, and then you're right back in it. And I think that the Jazz, the only thing that really concerns me when you look at their roster is guys who are injured or being rested, or you have some of that goes on. So when Mike Conley plays, they're a better team. There's no question. I've never been a Mike Conley guy. I probably wouldn't have signed him. But hey, they signed him. They're here now, and they need to use him, and he needs to play. And if he's not available to them come postseason time, that is going to be a downgrade for them.
Yeah, probably. It's going to take a lot to get me off my spot on this, because I think Anthony Davis is going to be out far longer than just a couple of weeks.
Well, yeah, and they've already won a title, so they're in no hurry.
And I think that's a problem. I do. I think that's a problem. I think that if I look at Milwaukee, I don't respect Milwaukee.
Uh-huh.
It's cool. Like yesterday's a perfect example of this. I love that the Bucks are like, oh my God, Giannis with the slam. Okay, that's all he does. And I said the other day,
Yeah.
everybody can dunk.
Everybody can.
That's cool that Zion Williamson can dunk. It's cool that Giannis can dunk. Everybody can dunk. What do you bring besides that? Now, they're really good at creating space, driving the lane, and dunking the basketball.
Yeah.
That's an absolute talent. That's an absolute skill in this league.
Uh-huh.
But if that's your only skill, you're going to struggle. And there are times, and again, yesterday with Giannis, perfect example. Why are you guarding him at the three-point line?
Don't know.
What is the point? There is no point.
You're begging him to drive.
And that's what he did. And they wind up winning that game. I look at the Clippers, and I say, what's the issue with the Clippers? Chemistry. They had a chance to win the game. And Kawhi Long Fingers Leonard takes an impossible three to make at the end of the game, and it comes up short because all they would do is take threes the rest of that game. They wouldn't drive to the basket the last 2 minutes.
Yep.
They weren't trying to get fouled. They weren't trying to get layups. They were trying to shoot threes.
Yep.
In a tie game.
And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying about the Jazz. I mean, the Jazz do it a little bit different. Like the Jazz, that's their entire offense. And all I'm concerned about, I'm not trying to get you to come off of the idea that they're the best team in the league. I really don't think that that's in dispute right now. I think they've just played incredibly well in the first half. A lot of people will tell you they built the schedule on injuries, and yeah, sure, the opponents they faced have had injuries, but I think that's
you can
that's
only
kind of the
play
league.
who's in front of you, man.
Yeah, I mean that's the league. So it's true, but it's not true at the same time. Other teams have had injuries, but it is what it is. The Jazz have won those games one way or the other, and I think that my only concern is they've lost the games of consequence. They've lost the game against the Clippers that was full strength. You lose against Miami, you win against a bad Orlando team.
Yes.
I
Yes.
just want to see them win this year. I want to see them win several 7-game series back-to-back and prove that they actually are a legit team. Because I'm telling you, in the postseason, they're not going to be able to do this 3-and-D crap and think that they're going to win a 7-game series against a great team in the West.
3-and-D crap.
Because that's what it is. That's what it is. You're playing the percentages. You're saying, hey, if we shoot the 3 ball 40 times a game, we're counting on the fact that we're going to make half of those. And they're making half of those on teams that are not being disciplined with running them off the 3-point line. So what's going to happen when you play a team that has elite on-ball one-on-one defenders who can hold their own against you on the 3-point line, and Rudy Gobert is the guy that you're left to feed to on the offensive end? What does that look like for the Jazz? How do they get?
Oh, it looks like Friday night in Miami.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
So that's what I'm saying. People, I'm happy to bear the hate and to hear the criticism from all the people on YouTube, but I'm not coming off of it until they show that they can beat the Nuggets in a 7-game series. They can beat the Clippers in a 7-game series and go to the finals. Once they go to the finals, then that changes it.
Yeah, and Friday night they shot 15 of 46 from 3, which is 32%, which is much lower than you're used to seeing the Jazz make. You start looking at Donovan 2 of 9, Mike Conley 2 of 7, Bogey 3 of 7, O'Neal 2 of 7, Jordan Clarkson. Obviously, Friday night Jordan Clarkson was the one. He was 3 of 12. Still scores 13 points, but he's 3 of 12 from 3. That's not who you become accustomed to with that guy.
Yep.
So I think that's the problem with this team. When you shoot. And 32%, let's be honest, shooting 32% for a lot of NBA teams from 3 is an average night. That's what they do. That's who they are. The Jazz are not that.
Yeah.
And when they shoot 32%, they're going to lose. Mm-hmm. And again, I just look at the wings for the Miami Heat. I look at 33 out of Jimmy Butler, 0 of 3 from 3. He scores 33 points. What does that tell you?
Where's Rudy Gobert?
He got to the basket a lot. Right? And where was Rudy Gobert? Bam Adebayo is where Rudy Gobert was.
That's my point.
I look at Bam. He played really well, 7 of 14, 11 rebounds, 19 points.
And so this is what I'm saying.
26 out of Goran Dragic.
This is what I love about the Rudy conversation. Yes, he changes the way offenses approach attacking the paint. There's no question about that. But ask him to defend. Ask him to have an individual assignment like Bam. or like, I don't know, Joel Embiid, an MVP candidate this year. Ask him to guard those guys. And what happens to this team on defense? That's what I'm telling you guys. That's what's concerning to me. That's why I keep bringing up the Nuggets, simply because of Nikola Jokic, because of what he's capable of doing and the compounding effect that has on their defense. I'm not so worried about the Clippers. I think the Jazz can hang with the Clippers mainly because they can play team defense against the Clippers, because the Clippers don't really have a big that you really got to worry about. But I'm telling you, this Nuggets team is going to be a problem for this Jazz team, I want the Jazz to beat them. I hate the Nuggets. I hate Jokic. I hate Murray. I hate Will Barton. I'm not a huge Michael Porter Jr. fan. But they're a good team, They present a lot of unique challenges against the Jazz, and it's concerning for sure.
I'm sorry. What did Michael Porter Jr. ever do to you?
He's been an average-ass player most of his career so far. That's what he did to me.
Who hates Michael Porter Jr.?
The bench doesn't hate him because he's always sitting on it.
Okay, here we go. I hate the Nuggets. I do. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I look at some of the other stuff we saw around the NBA yesterday. I say to you, oh, man, LeBron gets to sit out the fourth quarter. They were on cruise control, and you're like, well, another game where Bron's not scoring 20. He's done.
Hey.
He's done.
Hey.
Getting up and down the floor in a walker.
You can't have it both ways. Can't have it both ways.
Hey, did you see that they're now sponsored by AARP?
Can't have it both ways, but can't tell me he's the same guy and then have him sitting out the entire fourth quarter, because that never would have happened.
Guys, they were up 169 points.
Okay.
Would you have played him in the fourth?
No, probably not.
Why would you?
But my point is it's not just this game. You can't just hold on to this game. It's been multiple games last week where he was under 20.
I think that they are going through a transition period. I think it is very difficult when you ask LeBron James to go from team ball to, hey, we need you to carry the entire load, and nothing but the load.
Uh-huh.
He's great at taking loads.
Yeah, we get it.
But my point is, I look at the way Bron's played, and he's been outstanding. I mean, I look at 7 of 12, 3 of 5 from 3, 19 points, 4 dimes, 6 boards in 3 quarters of basketball. Now, is that Devin Booker scoring 41 and 3? No.
No, I'm not. But I'm not saying he's got to be Book.
But that's my point. He's not young anymore. This is a guy that's in his 30s. He is probably, if he's not, I don't know, is he in his prime? I would say absolutely not. But he's not washed up. He's not over the hill.
I'm not saying that he's washed up. What I'm saying is that he can no longer carry a team on his own, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But am I wrong?
I think it depends on the build. This team, I think Kyle Kuzma continues to be an enigma for the LA Lakers.
Mm-hmm.
He continues to be a guy that when he's on, he's freaking fantastic. But who knows what Kyle Kuzma is going to show up.
1 out of every 5 games.
Yeah, I mean, is he the guy that's going to show up and hit threes for you? I don't know. Is he the guy that's going to drive to the basket and dominate? I don't know. He tends to do that when they're up double digits.
Uh-huh.
But when it's a tight game and the boys are a little closer to your abdomen, when you're a little puckered up, Kyle Kuzma tends to squeeze the basketball a little bit.
Yeah, and he doesn't get as many looks in a tight game. There's no doubt.
I would agree. But I look at LeBron, and he put up 28 against Portland. I look at 19 against the Jazz, 31 against Washington, 19 against Miami, 32 against Brooklyn, 30 against Minnesota. I look at a guy that's averaging 25.5 points, 8 boards, 8 dimes.
Yeah. Hey,
that's
playing
pretty good,
well, dude. But there's no dispute. He's not. He's changing. He is getting older, and I don't think if you're the Lakers, leaving him out on an island like this is an option. I mean, you can't. I mean, look at Schroeder coming back was a huge improvement, but again, there's not enough without Anthony Davis. There's not enough, and so if you're the Lakers, are you just accepting that you're not gonna? Are you making the choice with LeBron on the same page as you to not have a deep postseason run this year, to just kind of, hey, we're going to take this year. Yeah, we'll play the year out, but we're going to rest AD and then we'll come back next year? Is that what you're saying? Like, I'm not.
I don't think so, but I mean, you're 5-5 in your last 10, including that 4-game losing streak. It's not like the world has been lost. Schroeder, to your point on Schroeder, I think he's absolutely a critical piece to this basketball team.
Yeah.
For the Lakers, I think his defense is vastly, vastly underrated.
Yeah.
And I think his tenacity. We saw it last night against Steph. Like, he pissed off Steph Curry last night.
Yeah,
he frustrated him multiple times.
And he does it differently
right?
than like Pat Bev does. Like, Schroeder just makes plays. Schroeder just is a good technical basketball player.
He's on your hip.
Yeah, he's constantly in the right position. And the problem is his arms are so damn long that he can get to places most other defenders can't get to. And so that's why it ends up frustrating you. And look, I thought the Lakers put on a clinic running Steph Curry off the three last night, which is exactly what I think teams need to start doing or figuring out how to do against a team like the Jazz. We've yet to see a team run the Jazz off the three-point line consistently.
Oh, that's exactly what Miami did.
Yeah.
Miami took their space away. I think it's a really good point. By the way, I think with Dennis Schroeder, the Lakers can play with anybody.
Yeah.
When Schroeder was out, I think that was a big part of them not being able to win games. Mm-hmm. Because with all due respect to the legend of Caruso.
Cantavius.
You know what? But the thing about Cantavius is he's that guy that will hit that critical three-pointer for you.
He will, yeah.
And against Golden State, he stepped in the passing lane a couple of times to put that game away. Like, I thought he is that guy that will do that. He is that guy that will do that.
He's clutch for sure. He'll
Yeah.
hit the three, no doubt.
I mean, who is even like the Brooklyn Nets?
Uh-huh.
Utah Jazz or the Brooklyn Nets?
Right now?
Right now.
You'd take the Jazz probably. But I think in a seven-game series with Durant playing and Kyrie playing, that's a different conversation.
Man, and I know I say this every show and it pisses somebody off. Kyrie Irving he's overrated, man.
I agree with that.
I'm telling you, Kyrie Irving is overrated.
Listen, they're a better team without Kyrie Irving. If it's KD, James Harden, Joe Harris in the corner,
look at the way DeAndre's playing.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan running down the middle. Like, you've got a nice setup there, and I think that Kevin Durant is a guy that will give you 40 every single game in the postseason. If you feed him, he will put up the numbers, and I think that's invaluable.
Did the Nets trade the wrong big guy?
Hey,
I'm a big
Jared Allen fan, bro.
I think they missed him.
Big Jared Allen fan. But yeah, I mean, either way, look, DeAndre Jordan's playing fine. He's not the defender that Jared Allen is, but the Nets aren't trying to beat you on defense. They're trying to beat you on offense.
Yeah.
So
it was frustrating watching that game yesterday, by the way.
Why?
Because they just when the Brooklyn Nets are off, maybe that was Saturday night we were watching that game. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it was Saturday.
When the Nets are off, they're terrible.
Right.
It's like they just would not give the ball to Joe Harris when they needed him. And the Mavericks wound up torching them.
Yeah.
I mean, it was within 7 early in the fourth quarter. And the Nets just stopped playing.
Yeah, I think that the Nets are one of those teams. They're in the same position the Lakers are in. They're a good team. They're going to the postseason, and they're kind of throttling right now. They're just they're putting it in low gear heading into the break.
By the way, last NBA point, and I think it's an important point because I think it's been too long since the Knicks were relevant. Mm-hmm. Dare I say the Knicks are on the verge of being relevant? Like the way Julius Randle is playing for them, and the way that they are winning games.
Yep.
And the talent is coming together. I would not want to face them in a series. If I'm one of the mid-table teams in the Eastern Conference, I'm fine. Let's find a way not to play the Knicks.
Well, and the Knicks are that team that has nothing to lose because they shouldn't be there. So when you're playing,
they're fourth in the East right now.
Yeah, but nobody expected them to be fourth in the East.
And by the way, that means they're 500.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Let's be honest.
Yeah, so but my point is in the postseason, let's say that they do make it. They don't have a collapse, which again is something I think they got to prove because they've been that team.
But bro, if the postseason started today, it'd be Knicks and Heat in round 1.
Yeah, and I think that is
and the Knicks would have the home court advantage.
That's a hell of a series, and I think that again, my main point here is that the Knicks have nothing to lose. They should not be where they are. They've outperformed the expectation, And I think when you do that and you're like, hey, like, we shouldn't be here. We're the underdogs. Let's go out and kick their ass. Like, let's keep this going. That is a hell of a position to be playing from.
They're getting performances out of everybody.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see how they go. By the way, I'm still wondering when Bradley Beal's getting traded. Because
he seems happy. Like, I don't know, dude. It's kind of changed.
You think he seems happy?
He came out last week and said that he's loved playing with Russell Westbrook. Like, he came out and said that.
That doesn't mean he's happy being
I don't know, dude.
Call us the Wizards,
Bro,
not the Bullets.
You don't come out and say that you're happy playing with a guy if you're not happy being on that team, dude. You don't do that. That's not how that works.
Yeah, I don't buy for a second that Bradley Beal wouldn't love to be any of the top 8 teams in the West.
Well, yeah, sure. I think any NBA player would be. But what I'm saying is that he's not handling his position very well. You do not come out and say, hey, yeah, I've really enjoyed playing with Russell Westbrook. That sends the message that, hey, if we added some players here, maybe we got something. That's not what you want to be doing if you're Bradley Beal and you want to be traded.
But see, I don't even think it's an add a couple of players thing. The whole thing is Russell Westbrook is just...
He's not good.
He's not very good. I mean, the guy puts up numbers, and so people are like, oh, okay, that's great. But if you look at his efficiency, you look at his shooting.
Yeah, it's bad.
I don't know when that started because young Russ in OKC could shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
Now he just can't shoot the basketball.
Yeah, I don't know, man. All I'm saying is I'm not saying that they're good. I'm not saying that they're a couple pieces away from being a championship contender. But what I am saying is that if you're Bradley Beal and you want to be traded, like you're in that point in your career where you're like, all right, I got to put up 40 every night because I want to prove my value, so trade me. But then you come out and say that you've really enjoyed playing with Russell Westbrook. Why would you do that? That's dumb. Like, that's not smart business if you're in the business of being traded this season. And I think if you're the Wizards, you're dumb for not trading him. Why would you not trade this guy? He's got a ton of value. You could start your rebuild just by trading him.
Yes.
And this goes right back to the same point we always talk about, whether it's the NFL, Major League Baseball, any of these clubs on any team. Bad organizations make really stupid decisions.
Consistently.
And not trading him would be a really stupid decision, for sure.
I would agree with that. Make sure you smash that subscribe button on YouTube. By the way, again, a lot of people ask me about the audio podcast, and we're never going to not do an audio podcast. It is something we value highly. The show does very well for us. Really appreciate everybody who listens on Spotify. Really appreciate everybody on iTunes, Stitcher. We have a lot of channels that feed us a lot of listens on a regular basis on the audio side of this thing. So I just want to say really appreciate everybody who listens to the audio side of the show. Just search The Monty Show. Open a Google window and search. Do it right now, in fact. Just go ahead and do it. Open a Google window and search The Monty Show, M-O-N-T-Y. The Monty Show. And you're going to see our YouTube channel comes up. Our podcasts come up on a bunch of different platforms. The website comes up. Anywhere you want us, you can get us. Just search The Monty Show. M-O-N-T-Y. The Monty Show. We need you on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button.